program is really special because all of our presenters are Prescott Audubon members and our friends. The program features the 4 photographers, and in between presenters, there is a little short pause while Rob sets everything up again. The first presenter is Kathy Severson, and her title is Magical Moments. And I did not ask them what I should say about them when I introduce them, so I'm just going to let them talk a little bit if they want about themselves or go straight into their presentation. This is supposed to be kind of a casual, like friends night, which suits me a lot better. So anyway, thank you all for coming, and welcome, Kathy.
That's so funny when you tell yourself, say something about yourself. I'm sure almost everybody here had a past where they worked, and whenever you met somebody, you always told them what you did, and now nobody cares. So I'm retired and I do bird photography. What else do you need to know? Does anybody have an idea as to where this photo came from? No. Oh, I thought that was a no-brainer. No, that's a Tower of London, and you've heard the story of the ravens, and if they leave, then the empire falls. Well, they're still there. I think the empire fell, but that's okay. And I do sincerely believe that that is the only film that I have of a bird, because, are you kidding me? I have so much respect for people who did photography with film. Digital was a game changer. So it's interesting because we're all here, we're all birders, and one of the focuses is, we get out there and we do our bird lists and we see how many birds we can get. And as I was trying to figure out how to go through all my photos, because nothing compared to them. I still have a lot of photos. And what I decided, early on, the whole concept of magical moments came into me. Still was interesting to try to figure out what it was, what I was going to use. But one of the things that we all share those moments with birds, right? You know those moments that you've had with a bird. He probably didn't know about it, but you knew, okay? And one of the things I thought was kind of interesting, that collectively we have moments that we have all shared. I mean, there are certain things. For example, let's get started. Oh, yes, that would help. So there's nothing more fun than seeing a bird that is where it doesn't belong. Now, this is a northern red bishop. I saw this bird on the Peavine Trail on 9/11/20. Remember, Bonnie, we talked about it. I told you I had done that. You go, oh, really? And I was going to see if anybody else had seen it. I'm assuming it was probably a pet that had been released. But it was interesting. So they come from sub-Sahara Africa. But when I looked it up in Google recently, they have adapted, and they say they are in California and in Arizona. So they have come and they're here to stay. But we all love to see those birds that are where they're not supposed to be, and it's like number 9, the white pelican, and all, the mandarin and all of those. So we enjoy that. We also enjoy, so this is seeing birds in different environments, not environments, but doing different behaviors. But I would say that most likely photographers are much more excited about seeing a bird in flight and getting a photograph of it than you are. And this is actually a Cooper's hawk that I got out of my back window during COVID. Remember COVID when we spent a lot more time with our bird feeders? Yeah. So this is it. I just love the way the markings worked on that. We also enjoy seeing birds in behavior. right? Various behavior kinds of situations. So this was at Lynx Lake. I was kayaking, and the lower heron was just minding his own business, just sitting there on that mud patch. And all of a sudden, this other bird descends down, and then this little bird left. And I was always kind of disappointed that I didn't get the picture of the full upper bird, but you know that story. You know, that tells a story. We know what's going on there, right? With just those legs poking out. And I was going to say something about Eric Moore, and Eric Moore is not here, but nobody will tell him that I talked about it, will you? No, but nobody said, yeah. I had a brief conversation with him once, and I know that Eric does photography, but he said, you know, Kathy, the camera gets in my way, and I understand that, because if it's a bird that's up in a tree and it's flooding around and I'm messing with settings and I can't get, it's backlit and stuff like that, it's about the camera and not about the bird. But there are moments when I was in the Everglades and we had been looking for this barred owl and thought he was underneath the thing, and then we're leaving and he was just sitting there. There were no leaves in his way and the sun was setting in the background, and it was a moment. It was just a moment. And so there are times that for me, the camera is a bridge, and it's a bridge doubly when I go into post-processing, because that's when I fall in love. And then there are those pictures that just speak for themselves. Wow. This was a very cold January day at Willow Lake. Shock. And he was just sitting there. And I have nothing to say. So when I decided this process, one of the things I was going to do is not use photographs from outside the continental United States. But I always break my own rules. So one of the things that we all love more than anything else is the beginning of the circle of life. And I don't know about you, a lot of us are close to the same age, and I think the first time I ever saw a frigate like this was on Disney's Wonderful World of Color. Do you guys remember that? I remember seeing that. Never, ever, ever in my life did I think I would see one in real life. And I was in the Galapagos, and I was not in any kind of control of when we were there, but we were in there in March, and there were just hundreds of these guys all over, and it was just magnificent. And the circle of life, there's some important things that are going on. And I got this photograph, took this photograph in Wickenburg, and there was it was so dark. A lot of post-processing went into this. But I saw them, and I think they obviously saw me, if you look at them. But anyway, we've got recording, and we've got a great, big, nice, juicy bug for the vermilion flycatcher. And I just thought that was so sweet. So then we're going to go back to the Galapagos, and we were on a trail, and we rounded the corner, and there she was. I assume she's a she. And I want to clarify something, and I think most of you know this, because it looks like she's giving us the evil eye, and she's not. That's the way their eyes are. And we do this mostly with bald eagles. I hear this all the time. Oh, they're giving the evil. No, they're not. That's just the way their eyes are positioned. She was calm. She didn't care. She just had her nest right there on the edge of the trail, and she was just, that's a blow up, but that's on my wall. And so it was interesting. So here we are. We've got the eggs. Well, I just spent a week in St. Augustine, Florida, and I saw babies. So I'm going to tell you a story, and everybody just don't giggle and don't, just listen. Okay, so we're there, and we were there able to get a pass. This is at the alligator farm in St. Augustine, and they have this natural environments where they're bringing wild birds in and helping them build nests and yada yada. So I'm watching this, and I'm going, why doesn't Dad go get a fish for these birds? And it's getting darker and darker, and I really have a 3-second attention span. So I had this thought, but nobody did. And I mean, they're there, and I'm taking a lot of photographs, and I walk off. So let's go forward a few days, and next to the last day we were there, and finally, because I always get excited and do things too early, and we were there way too early, but there was a spoonbill nest, and there was hatchlings. And this is what I saw. And I thought, oh, that's why I didn't see Dad go get fish for the egret. Now, I'm taking a shower today, and we were talking about this. I don't write out notes, but I do think in my head. So all day long, I've been thinking about what I'm going to talk to you about. I'm getting out of the shower at 4:30, and I go, I think I got it all wrong, because spoonbills eat a totally different than egrets do. Egrets go out and get fish. Spoonbills eat like stuff in the mud, right? I'm looking at Walt because he knows. They do eat, but so my question is, and anybody can answer, Walt, is so the spoonbill is going up into, I'd say the throat, but it's probably not the throat, to eat. Is that true for the egret, or does the egret regurgitate? Okay, because then I thought, well, I got it all wrong. But so anyway, regardless, what I feel self-assured is I did not miss a dad egret going to get a fish to bring back to the babies. I don't think they do that. So there are some photographs some moments that require more than one image. So when I first started birding with Eric, there was another photographer there, and he told me about a Cooper's hawk's nest over at the Yavapai Lakes in Prescott Valley. And so I live in Prescott Valley, and so I started going over there every 3 days, and this was one of the earlier days that I went in. And I went over there one day, and I got there, and there were 3 little Cooper's hawks that were in the nest. I sat there and I watched them for over an hour, and when I left, they were all out of the nest. When I went back the next day, they weren't there. So this is these little birds, and you know, it takes 5 weeks from them to go from eggs to fledging and going down the nest. I just find that absolutely amazing, that these little birds, they're working so hard so they can leave the nest. And my guess is the motivation is because that nest is full. There's not a lot of room, and there's one, and he's made it out of the nest. So I love spoonbills. When I was on my Florida trip, this was the very last day, the very last stop, and we were at a state park, and we had walked down this trail, and there was nothing. It was just completely quiet. We've all had days like that. And so everybody left except for this other guy and I, and we were just standing there, and we saw the spoonbill fly. Well, it flew across, there was a canal there, and it flew over to our side and was pretty close. He wanted to get a picture of it flying. He'd missed that, but I just wanted to watch it. So we sat there for probably an hour till it was dark, and watching this spoonbill. Now I want you to see how the color changes as the sun sets. And it's just photographs of this crazy spoonbill getting ready for... Oh, and then we had an interloper, of course. But he was so darn cute. And he said, please photograph me. Please, please, please. Include me in the photographs. So I'm not sure if this is my favorite photograph or this one. So it occurred to me that I had all these big bird pictures and no small bird pictures. Well, there was a week in August, the first week in August, and I think 23, Butterfly Springs up on Mingus Mountain. That was insane. And I went over by myself, and I had 33 birds in eBird, plus 18 photographs. That's incredible for me. I average about 25%. I don't know what you guys get, but 25% is good. And so I thought there were 2 birds that just so impressed me that summer that was new to me. And one was the red-faced warbler. And I don't know. You just can't get cuter than that. Until you get to the painted redstart. And, then there's the painted redstart. I do not know when I first learned about the crested caracara, but I became obsessed. This bird is just the coolest bird. And so I had a friend on Facebook who was a professional photographer, and he knew of a nest that was west of Tucson, and he showed pictures one year, and I texted him and I said, if you go back, if it's next year, can I join you? And so I went and I joined him the following year, and this is, yeah, and it was right by, it was on a service road. I mean, it was just incredible. But I sat in the back of his van for 6 hours. I will never be a nature or wildlife photographer, that is for sure. But I did go back about 10 days later with another friend, and the birds were a little bit bigger. And we could photograph them. So we didn't see them fledge, but. And I love that. I just love that. So this is my last, and you're sitting there going, Kathy, really? Red-tailed hawks? Is this the best you can do to end this program? And I go, yeah, it is. So it was Willow Lake again, January. I hadn't had a very good day kayaking, so I decided to take a walk. I was over where that row of cottonwoods is. There was a gap, and across from Embry-Riddle. And I saw this. I don't know what it's called. I've never seen anything. I've never heard of this. But when I talk about moments, there's those moments when we get to look into their world in a whole new way. So I heard the call, and this is what I saw. And then it was over. Wow. And so am I.
Uh-oh, back at the end. Note to self, don't follow Kathy. I let the title be my title too because I take a lot of bird pictures. My goal is to get a picture of every bird when we're out on a birding trip. So I'm taking a lot of pictures. So through the lens is where I like to see them because my eyes are pretty crummy. So I love to see them through the lens. So we're going to see if we can. There we go. I use a point and shoot. I don't do anything special. I don't have big lenses. It's the Coolpix P950 Super Zoom. The focal length is 24 to 2000. I can't carry a lens big enough to do that normally. The sweet spot of the lens is between 500 and 800 millimeters. So when I hit the camera, it goes to 500, and hopefully I see the bird I'm looking for. It's perfect for birding. The focus is in the middle. If you can just find the bird in the middle, you're good to go. And it will burst 7 to 10 shots, and it will go 3 before you have to stop. So I, on many occasions in chasing a bird around a tree, will get 30 shots to find out. My goal is I just need 1. So, I mean, that's what you do. And the spotted towhee is where I started. I had a regular camera, walked around the corner, and there was the bird. And when I got the picture, the eye was red. I thought, this is it. This is the new hobby. So that's where we started. I took the slide out that said, I took the class from Bonnie. Let me go back. I took the class from Bonnie. If you were lucky enough to take Bonnie's class at Yavapai College, she said, you never say a bird is just a. It's not just a mallard. It's not just a house finch. it's special. So when I go in the field, I'm always thinking, it's not just stuff, this is really cool. She also said when you have rare birds and other things, you think, how did they get here? They don't read the books. So when you're looking at a bird book and you're thinking, well, it doesn't look like this, they're not reading the bird books, hang in there, someone will help you figure it out. Sue will help you figure it out. Whoops. Come on. Okay, don't do that. So what I decided to do was to look at, if you are working, if you give you a camera, and I've got 2 of these, and every once in a while I'll hand it to one of my friends and say, let's go take some pictures, let's go find some birds. And wanted to kind of stay local if you want to try to go find some birds. So this is Fane Park. It's in Prescott Valley. It's small, it's close, and you can find birds and see them in their habitat and not worried about you because there's a lot of people there all the time. So they have double-crested cormorants, neotropics too, but you get them with their wings out and they're gorgeous. Then you get them when they're doing their getting ready to have breeding plumage, and you get the guy, I have to walk. You get over here and you've got this one with all the different feathers on the wings, and it's like, oh my gosh, are they always there? We just don't see them. And if you're birding long enough and taking pictures long enough with just one eye versus the 2 when you got the binoculars on, they will look at you. And that guy looked at me like, I'm really cool. And I was like, yes, you are. So you take his picture. Oops, okay, we're going to get this yet. Fane Park is also really, really nice and close. It's called a ringneck duck. And until this kind of pictures, I never knew why. There's a little brown ring, but you don't get to see it that often. At Fane, they're really nice and close. They don't care. There's fishermen there. They don't care. You can see things there that you wouldn't be able to see normally because they're nice and close. Lynx Lake has gadwalls and other ducks, and I think ducks are basically don't get the thus they do. Oh, this is going to be good. Because you can't see them, and I wish I had taken these and blown them all up. The feathers and the intricacy of the ducks are absolutely beautiful. So if you're out at Lynx or any of them, check out the ducks, look at them. They're not just a duck, they're perfect. Lynx Lake, when they said 30 shots, when you start to see that the ospreys come in, you start to crank the pictures and you start to go and you hope that you'll get the picture with the bird actually with the fish before he flies away or your camera stops. But always have your camera with you. That's what I always do. It's with me 100% of the time so I can kind of get this when I'm out. It's on my kitchen table watching the birds in the backyard too. Granite Basin has almost every kind of habitat that you can find, so go there, enjoy it. The bridle titmouse, I think, is one of Bonnie's favorites. It's always like the bird that had too much caffeine in the morning. They're like crazy, and you chase them around, and then every once in a while they say, okay, and they stop, and they let you get a picture that's really cool. So keep chasing them. They will slow down for you. Granite Basin also seems to have a lot of nice raptors. The Cooper's hawk a couple years ago, he sat there and he called for mom to bring breakfast. And you could hear the adult off in the distance going, no. You may be a juvenile, but you're on your own. You hit the 18, you're good. And he stayed there and called for long enough that we were able to move around. One of the things they taught us in photography is sometimes you have to move with your feet and you got to move to get a better position. We were able to look around, walk around and find him, look enough times to say, did I get the tail in the picture? It's like Kathy said, I wish I'd gotten the bird on top. Sometimes you take the picture, you look at it and you think, oh, didn't get the whole bird. He allowed us to do that. Just recently, the northern pygmy owl, this was Laura, was kind of leading us in the group. And we're going down a path in the meadows, and she's like, owl, owl. So we're all scurrying. And you got to the point where the owl was here, and you couldn't see him until you kept walking. And you got to the point where you went, you want a picture? Stand right here. Come right here. And we took turns standing right there because you had to be in that position to see the owl. And bless his heart, he stayed the entire time and let us take pictures and then said, okay, it's time for you guys to go. And we left, but he was wonderful. Not all birds do that for you. Willow Lake has shorebirds, they've got wonderful ducks, they've got raptors. What's nice about this is a solitary sandpiper, I hope. We were at a group and we're taking pictures and someone said, oh, this is a fill in the blank. And we went, oh, okay. They took the picture home, looked at it, really looked at it. And sometimes in the field you can't. And I don't know how you do that without pictures, because there's times we get together and go, what is it? You go, I don't know. And then you send it to Eric or you send it to somebody else because you just don't know. They sent a note back and said, no, we got it wrong in the field. It's a solitary sandpiper. It's like, okay. But you have those discussions. Occasionally we'll have mystery birds. We have no idea what they are because you're out there. It's just, there's no label on the bird. They don't, beyond not reading the book, they don't bring the labels with them. This was the purple gallinule over in Willow. It was rare. Again, he didn't read the book to know he wasn't supposed to be here. He was there for a while, and he was allowing us to enjoy him in some wonderful lights, so he was great. Willow has a beautiful northern harrier, and they're over at Watson too, but they are amazing. And to see the face that looks like an owl and get the white on the tail, amazing. If you haven't been to the Cottonwood Peninsula, I always thought it was just called the dog park. It's over there off the dog park in Prescott, and you go beyond that to get into the Cottonwood Peninsula. It has a rookery. So in the trees, the great blue herons are in a little further over. These are the double-crested cormorants. You walk the path, and they're above you, which is kind of freaky. They make the worst noise. It sounds like it's prehistoric. And when they decide that they're cleaning the nest, when mom throws things, she throws it over the edge. And if you're there and if you walk in, it's kind of not good. And also, if Junior didn't finish breakfast, they throw that over too. So when you go and you look, just be careful where you are, and don't linger. Keep moving. Cottonwood Peninsula usually has ongoing great horned owls families that have wonderful little chicks. This was just a couple of days ago, I'm sorry, and the mom, the adult, never turned around, never wanted to see us, never turned around. The chick closest to mom went down by the nest, and this is through the lens. As I panned down and watched him, he kind of looked over and I thought, he's got the attitude down. He is going to be a great bird. And again, you see that through the lens because it's right here versus out there. So it was like, this is just great. So that is, I'm not sure where they are in their nesting. Watson Lake, this is for, if you haven't gone to the monthly free bird walks at Watson, Sue and Joe do a fabulous job. This allows us to capture and identify and say, this is the first western kingbird of the season in the parking lot. The parking lot is great birding, so we're able to say, okay, we found the first kingbird and put it on eBird and let the world know. You sometimes say, oh, you know what? It's just a mallard. And it's like Bonnie said, it's never just a. In the right light, in the right environment, having the wings up and looking at, the guy here at the bottom, he thinks she's pretty cool. She is pretty cool. So to capture that and to see them, nice. And Watson, again, has such a variety that you can see. This is new. Whoops. Okay, this is new. This is Black Canyon Heritage Park. When you go down 17, it says Black Canyon. That is as far as you can go in Yavapai County, and we have kind of adopted them, and we go down there often. There's always a vermilion flycatcher. I had one with the female there, but it just was too busy. He's the rock star. He's usually between the visitor center and the little pond, and they have picnic benches, and it's just a great event to go spend the day, the morning. There's a little restaurant across the street. It's just fun. He's always there. One of the things that we always look for is they have Inca doves. I've never seen an Inca dove before. The colors, the little tiny patterns on the wings. At one point, all 4 doves were there, but I always want to go see the Inca. The lure of Black Canyon is the Harris's hawks. They are, according to eBird, rare. Again, they don't read the book, and they live there. So when you go down there, they're usually there. Beautiful birds, nice big birds. The one on the right may not be tack sharp, but he was stretching and getting ready to take off. So you've got the color in the wings. You've got the tail with the white, able to see him in some great glory. So it's going to get a little warm down there, but go down there. We try to support them. Taking pictures through the lens sometimes is a little limiting. This is Peavine at Watson. And sometimes I just want to get the big picture. I want to see everything. So this is the big picture. And what I like about Watson is, and the lighting coming from behind you, is you get these wonderful reflections. And you get some, if you look at the upper right, you get some interesting things when you're looking at this in the field. Then you go to the little picture, and I went off and I found there were 3 in the picture, there's 4 here. They've got some nice color, they've got nice reflection. Up in the upper right of the picture was this one. I love sleeping birds. I love sleeping birds who are sleeping, but they're keeping one eye on you. So they've got the first 2 are both sleeping, but they've got one eye on you. And the color is gorgeous. So out of the big picture, you can break down and get some little ones. Watson Lake has, last year, the first bald eagle that actually fledged, and we had a success. In 2024, we were there at the pullout, and the lighting wasn't good, but I always look for hawks on poles, whether I'm driving or I'm there at Watson. This bald eagle was there. Do you remember the story about the bald eagle at Lynx that was challenged by the younger male and was injured, and they had to take him down to Phoenix to rehab him, and they brought him back up here and they released him? This is him. And he has the little chip. And sure, he's usually at it in the car. My friends say to me, send me your bald eagle pictures. So along with Goldwater, Lynx, Watson, if you go to Dead Horse Park, there are bald eagles. They're usually at the end of the list of the parks, the ponds. In the trees and or across from the parking lot, there's this great big, help me, cliff, thank you. I knew I'd remember that. So the cliff is up there, and they're usually up there looking very majestic, overseeing their world, really nice. The other thing they want to know is, have you seen any wood ducks lately? And they're in Watson. This one I was trying to get the female that you can just see the blue of her wing behind him. And as I'm looking at it going, do I have enough, can I get a nice shot here? Because you've got to stand here and scoot down. And the male, I can see him kind of come into frame and go, no, you've had enough. Head out. So, you do what you're supposed to do. Bubbling Ponds has them, and in oftentimes when they're trying to get the kids to grow up, they take them in the ponds, and you see more than you get to see otherwise. So the females are on both sides. You can see how small they are based on where the mallards are, but they're just spectacular. And if you want to see wood ducks, that's a good place. And again, big to small, you've got the female, and you've got the male, and you've got some of the juveniles. So you get a nice look at wood ducks. And sometimes you get a surprise. This was one of Bonnie's walks at Watson again. We'd gone around the pond. We were going down a little kind of a path, and we turned around and looked, and there are these guys. You can see the top two were looking at Mom, and Mom's going, "Don't move." The bottom one's looking at us going, "What's going on? Who are these people?" Everybody who had a camera, everybody had a phone, took a picture. It's great. I was late. I'm usually late. And I was glad this time because my friends are out here. And you get to see just how wonderful, how beautiful it is in our birding places. So please, find a camera, get out, take some pictures, and enjoy whatever you can see through the lens is absolutely fabulous. Thank you.
Test, test. Okay, here we go. My pictures are just a little bit of this and a little bit of that from places I've been over the years. No big order. I guess the theme, though, is I'm sharing feather colors because I think that's what catches us all. You know how it is. You see a yellow warbler and you get caught. You see the summer tanager male, first time in the year, that red. So I get a lot out of that, and I thought I'd share some of it. There's no artistry in my camera work. The only reason I carry a camera everywhere I go birding is because of eBird. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, yeah, prove it. So you have to document when you see something unusual. I got my first little point-and-shoot camera in 2009, and my husband and I were birding in Congress, and there's one house in Congress, and I'm sure some of you have seen it. He has a watered lawn, grass, so I'm looking on the grass, and there's a robin, of course. There's a thrush looking for worms in the grass, and it's a rufous-back robin, which is really far north for 2009. Since then, they've come up further north. But anyway, it was my very first day with my very first camera, and that was my very first documentation, and that's how I got hooked. So I'm just going to share fun pictures, and let's see if this works. We'll talk about feathers a little bit, and then hopefully some of these shots show the kind of personality and amazing bits of behavior that a photographer can catch, like Kathy and Corey already talked about. We'll start with parrots. This guy has lots of attitude and a firm grip on that French fry. Some parrots are some interesting different colors. I like this one in particular. I love teal colors. These two birds don't live near each other at all, but they pick the same kind of outfit. Where's the little... Let's see if this thing works. This is supposed to be I probably have to turn this on, huh, Rob? Oh, well, I don't need to point. I just wanted to mention the feather part of all this. If you look at those feathers on the bird's rump, on the turkey's rump, see to the feathers that start blue, and then there's a black line, white line, brown. Okay, that's all one feather. It comes out of one little follicle. And that follicle knows how to paint those colors on that feather. I can't get over that. We can't talk about color without sharing something about tanagers. Lots of you have been Central South America, right? And seen the tanagers at the feeders. You can't get enough of that. Some kingfishers also put on a decent show. And then I'm sure some of you who know me know that I kind of have a thing about pigeons. I like pigeons, okay? I think they're fascinating, so I had to put these guys in here. Now that kind of oil slick flow of colors, probably, what does it make you think of? Our ibis around here. You catch them in the light, they have that same amazing color game. This is a kind of a laughing thrush, actually. But every time I see this picture, I think of a story that I want to share. So how many of you have been on like a birding trip and there's someone in the group who's just kind of a problem? Right? Well, on this trip, this guy Bob, he was over 90. He was stumbling a lot and falling, and so he used a lot of the guide's time when the rest of us were hoping for some of that attention. But we all tolerated him. I was there and I was hauling around a little handheld audio recorder, and he was fascinated with that. And so we got to be good buddies on the trip, how it goes. And this is really a humbling story because I was kind of annoyed with him, okay? But at the end of the trip, I looked him up. His name is Robert Stein. Do you know that name? It turns out he was one of the instrumental audio biologists at the Cornell lab when it was very, very small. He was the person that first used audio to separate what used to be the Trails flycatcher, and he proved by their different vocalizations, willow and alder, that they were separate species. So Robert Stein was actually a remarkable guy, and I was really, in the end, very happy that he took what was probably his final big trip. So when I look at these pictures from Thailand, it brings that all back. Oh, I knew somebody'd ask that. That's why I wrote it down. No, actually, there's two ways to pronounce it, but I think the common one is Leocicla. Okay, moving on. Sometimes subtle colors are cool. So I like those guys. And here's my little favorite friend, the Minla. It's kind of like a little warbler, real perky, real friendly, lots of personality. I love that little guy. All right, I would be remiss if I didn't put this bird in here when we talk about color, right? Lots of you have seen that, right? Yeah, it's a great bird. All right, my next two pictures is up to you, a little quiz, okay? Which do you think is shinier and more charming? And you don't have to vote, you can just talk to yourself. The first, of course, has to be hummingbirds. So, of course, hummingbirds are birds of the New World, North and South America only. But due to convergent evolution, there's a group called the sunbirds in the Old World, and they're knockout birds too. And they show color all over their body from every direction, and they're just very charming. They do almost everything the same as hummingbirds, but they don't hover and they don't fly backwards. Okay, now don't laugh. This is a chicken, okay? This is the wild predecessor of chickens, and look how handsome. That's quite a rooster. And some people ask me, what's your favorite bird? You know, you get asked that question, right? Well, I always answer the domestic chicken is my favorite bird because if we hadn't developed raising chickens and for food, we probably would have shot all the wild birds that there are over the years. So that's why I always say chicken's my favorite bird. It's saved all the rest of them. Okay, is this going to work, Rob? Let's see what happens here. I don't have the pointer for this. What do I do? This is a little video, okay? If I can get it to work. How do I turn it down? Sorry. Sorry. Okay, we'll move on. That was right here in Prescott, by the way. That's our birds. Okay, the rest of these pictures, I'll be quick. They're just mostly fun postures and attitude. This Hoatzin I met in the Brazil trip I took with Micah. A lot of you all know Micah, and he's our local hero. And he told me now to remember the name of this Hoatzin, just remember Watson Woods. I like this guy because sometimes tiny birds have big attitude. I hope some of you have had a chance to see broadbills somewhere, maybe. They're a great group of birds, and I just enjoyed this one because he kind of reminds me of Elvis. And just to show you that flamingos don't always just stand around on one leg, and I honestly never did figure out what they were doing, whether it was love or war. I never can figure out with birds whether it's love or war. This is a Regent bowerbird, and that's his bower, and he only picks up blue bits of stuff, so he's really happy that most bottle caps are blue. I love this little fella. He's just charming. Okay, back to the U.S. for the last couple pictures. Here we are in the Texas coast, and this is a tern version of, if I ask her out to dinner, do you think? And then the laughing gull laughing at him. And then for attitude, you can't beat a Merlin. They're just so fierce and handsome. Now, this is dangerous. I have one more slide, or video. And it does have audio with it. The whole point of it was the audio. We'll see what happens. These are, it's hard to tell in this little thing, but they're yellow-headed blackbirds. And you know they make that horrible raucous call, but they also can sound like waves on the beach. So we'll see what happens. Wait for it. Can you hear the waves? How can we not look at birds, right? So thank you very much. That's it.
Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Walt Anderson. I know many of you. I was nature boy when I was young. I guess I still am nature boy as well. I taught at Prescott College for 27 years and then retired. I'm active as a wildlife artist and a conservationist, and nature is my passion. So I want to share some bird photography, but really emphasis on composition and on the feeling that you get when you look at birds really well like this. So the hummingbirds, of course, are challenging because of their size. And so one of the nice things about it, though, is if you sit near feeders, you may be able to see them up close and personal because they're preoccupied. And the key thing when you're photographing birds is to be a tree. Pretend you're a tree. Stand really still, don't move, don't make any quick motions and things like that, and you're likely to get pictures like this. One of the things that's so amazing about hummingbirds is the iridescence, how the colors come and go. You can see golds and greens and reds and purples and all sorts of things. And then it turns in different light and it becomes black. It's really interesting how iridescence works, and so beautifully for the birds. It's great if you can catch them in flight, not always an easy thing, especially if you can have a little motion in the wings, because that really shows what's going on there. Such beautiful birds. One of the things that I try to do with my photography is to keep the background simple, to emphasize the bird, and to use the composition so that there's room for the bird to move into the picture. There's several little compositional rules that probably will become obvious as you see the images. The small birds are difficult, especially when they continually move the way a ruby-crowned kinglet does. They just don't sit still, so it's always a treat when you get them like this. You have to realize that for every good image that you get, there are many images that you throw away. I had a friend who was a slide photographer. He said the measure of a good photographer is the size of his wastebasket, because he took a lot of images to get the good ones. So here we have a foraging verdin down in the desert. Again, it's really fun to capture something of their behavior. One of the things that I do as an educator is I do a weekly photo essay called Wild Wednesday. I'm not sure I'm going to get one done tomorrow because this is Tuesday night, and I have a field trip all day Wednesday, so may not be. If any of you are interested, you can get on my mail list. I have about 400 people who get these Wild Wednesday essays as PDFs through email, but you can also find them on Facebook. I put them on Facebook, my Facebook page. Sometimes the photography shows you things that you didn't see with your naked eye. The bush tit is so tiny that you can barely follow the bird, but when you get the photograph, then you can come and see actually he's about to get that insect. Really close there to get that insect. And I never would have seen that without the ability to have a photograph to look at later. The bridal titmouse, of course, is a favorite of many people, really a cute little bird. And for these sorts of things, it's a matter of looking for intention movements. The bird usually gives you a little bit of a clue, a little change in posture or something when it's going to fly. And you've got to be ready to catch that moment when it takes off. A couple days ago, I was out at Willow Lake. Everybody goes out there to see the so-called gray ghost, the male northern harrier, and the females have been there for a long time. But I was preoccupied by swallows. There were 5 species of swallows active out there. And again, you don't see these things unless you get a photograph because there's just a lot of movement, the birds coming and going. And so only by capturing an image like this, you can see 3 different species here and how much they interact. They bicker a lot. They're very social, but they bicker a lot. So a bank swallow is landing, a tree swallow is cursing at it. A couple of northern rough-winged swallows are watching the affair, and it's so much fun to watch that sort of thing, and the photography allows you to see this a little bit better and to remember the experience. Well, it's really great to photograph things in their natural habitat, and so here's a portrait of a cactus wren appropriately on a cactus. And again, by being motionless and by being very patient, sometimes the birds will come to you. And so I'm very, very close to this American robin who's given me the eye. Now, these 2 ravens look like they've just been in a spat. They can't stand to look at each other. But we think of ravens as black, but when you look at them closely, there are beautiful iridescents, blues and purples and other colors in there, and they're really quite gorgeous. They are our largest songbird. Here's one giving a little aria up in the Canyonlands country. Now, we have the has already gone down at this point. But look at this bird and look at his white eye, his velvety black cheek patch, the blue-black coloration, and the long tail. So this is a great-tailed grackle. And then here we have a starling in Africa, the Ruppel's long-tailed starling. And it's the same thing, that velvety black cheek patch, the white eye, the blue and purple iridescence, and a long tail. But they're totally unrelated birds. And that concept of convergence came up before because they have a similar lifestyle and it's selected for similar type of features. In fact, the grackle is in the same family with orioles and meadowlarks and cowbirds and things like that. Our New World orioles aren't orioles at all. The oriole family, the Oriolidae, is in the Old World, and there are many species over there. Our New World orioles, if you want to call them that, are called that because of similarity, because of convergence. And here's a hooded oriole to demonstrate that. There's a beautiful meadowlark. You can see that distinctive pattern of the yellow below, the black chest patch, a little yellow over the eye. But if you're in Africa, you'll see a very similar bird, the yellow-throated longclaw, which is really a lark, a totally different group. Let me get a little bit of water here. So a lot of people, when they came to North America, were familiar with the Old World birds and assigned the wrong names to many of our familiar birds. And I just love seeing the coloration of birds like the weavers, particularly well known for their ability to create these incredibly designed nests. Related to the starlings are the oxpeckers. This is the yellow-billed oxpecker. On his native habitat, the giraffe. And they feed upon the ticks and other things on the giraffes. Really an important bird. And some of these small songbirds over there go to great lengths to impress the lady friends. We have a straw-tailed whydah male. In the breeding season, he grows these long plumes and those bright patterns, and then do these amazing displays to try to impress the female, which is very little different from house sparrow. Of course, worldwide, we have many, many species of kingfishers. This is the malachite kingfisher from Africa. It's just barely bigger than a sparrow. But there are even kookaburras are enormous birds. They're kingfishers as well. And I love the woodpeckers. Part of the secret in getting a good shot of a woodpecker is knowing where they're going to land. So you have a good post pretty near your suet feeder, and occasionally they may come in there and you're able to get a good shot. Little ladder back. Again, I'm so impressed with the beautiful colors of the birds that we see around the world. A northern carmine bee-eater in Tanzania. I'm leading another trip next year for Artists for Conservation. I'm a signature member of that group, and we hope we'll see lots of bee-eaters. Well, the Gambel's quail is a favorite for many people, and at this time of year, you'll often hear them going, caw, caw, a single call out there. That's a bachelor male, a male who has not succeeded in having a mate. There's higher mortality in the female, so there's a surplus of males. And so they have to advertise these unmated ones to try to attract a female. Sometimes they attract people they don't expect. But I guess he appreciated the song all the same. Or maybe it's just a photo bomb. Again, the secret to getting this picture was to stand in one spot and let the birds come to me. It took probably an hour for the birds to move into close range. Of course, there are many, many pictures of the birds further away that I didn't include. But they're coming right up to my feet. You can see the ice on the edge of the shore there. These are least sandpipers. A shorebird, but one we don't see in this country, is the greater painted snipe. Like our phalaropes, the female is the larger, more colorful member of the species. So this is a female. The male is very drab and looks a lot like a normal snipe, but they're not related to snipes. Again, you saw the beauty of the cormorants earlier. I just can't get over those color patterns. They're just absolutely amazing. And once in a while, if you're patient, you can get close to a nocturnal heron, the black-crowned night heron. Beautiful eyes. If you ever had trouble identifying an egret, you can see here size is a factor. It's really pretty amazing how the great egret is so much bigger than the little snowy egret. And out at Willow Lake, it's a great place to watch the egrets. Sometimes they're accustomed to people and you can get pretty close. I watched this one hunting and he caught a vole right in front of me. He's 20 feet away and he caught a vole. Now, who knows what that is? Not a hornbill. Shoebill. That's a shoebill. That's right. Pretty rare bird in a family of its own. People aren't really not sure exactly who's related to it, but it's an impressive one from Uganda. Now, cranes are really ancient birds as well. And here you can see 3 coming in for a landing down here near Wilcox, where I was a featured artist recently this year. Again, you take a lot of shots and then you look for the ones that have the good composition. In Africa, we see the gray crown crane, which is the national bird of Uganda. Absolutely gorgeous birds. And I have, as you can probably guess, tons of waterfowl pictures. I just chose this as a representative. Waterfowl are really pretty amazing, and the effort they go through, the males, to impress those females is really something else. But I really like the peacefulness of the tundra swans on Watson Lake here with that and the bird so peaceful. Well, you might think this is a falconer's peregrine, but it's not. This is a bird that landed on my deck, and I photographed it through the window of my studio. So there's a peregrine falcon just outside. I'm surprised it turned out that well. But this is a bird that I just got close to by moving very slowly, and it was preoccupied, and so a Cooper's hawk, absolutely gorgeous bird. In Africa, the diversity of the diurnal birds of prey is just astonishing. Anybody know what this is? It's a martial eagle. Very good. Great. Yeah, this is an immature martial eagle, and it's probably about twice the size of our golden eagle or bald eagle. And they will take small antelope at times, so really impressive. The Serengeti ecosystem has about 53 species of diurnal birds of prey. 53 species, ranging from little tiny pygmy falcons all the way up to secretary birds. Now, speaking of secretary birds, it's National Secretary Bird Week. Anyway, these are very, very large raptors in a family of their own, and they fly quite well. Now, what we call vultures here are probably more closely related to storks, and the old world vultures like these, the lappet-faced vulture, the Rupel's griffin vulture, and the white-backed vulture, are really modified eagles. They're more closely related to that. So again, vulture is a term that was misapplied when the early settlers came to North America. And there's a marabou stork back there as well. Well, we all love owls, so I'm going to close this evening with a few owls. This is the milky or Verreaux's eagle owl of Africa. It's larger than our great horned owl, but the same genus, has pink eyelids. They have pink eyelids. They're really pretty impressive. And that's out on a night game drive. So when you have an opportunity to get up close and personal with these birds, it truly is amazing, and I feel very privileged and fortunate to be a naturalist and to be able to spend so much time out in nature seeing these things. So I leave you with this image of a bird in Watson Woods, quite some years ago though, and certainly something for us to appreciate. Thank you all for your attention. Come on up, everybody. Well, we'll entertain a few questions here. Someone must have a question. Thanks. Thank you. That might be it. Thank you all.